And welcome to Saturday Night Live with Tony and Nicki V. Here we are at hashtag 11.
Oh, right. It's
We're on
number
hashtag
11 of Tony and Nicki Saturday Night.
Yeah, I call it in the bedroom, darling. In the bed or in the bedroom with Tony and Nicki V. And tonight's subject is, well, I did type it in. Can I remember it?
How you
it
attract and then later on repel. Let me read it. From the bedroom of Tony and Nicki V at 7 p.m. Saturday, 24th of April. Is that the right date?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. We will be sharing a relationship fundamental, most simply don't understand. What creates attraction on the one hand and then, sadly, later on, repels the very same person that you attracted.
Indeed,
so very interesting subject. And actually, we often say, what should we talk about this week? And we so often see this with couples, but we also talk about it with people who are single, because they're all about how am I going to attract somebody? How am I going to attract somebody? But actually, guess what? Sometimes very quickly, there is repelling going on.
So,
let me get my.
Let's just say hi. We've got a couple of folks joining us. Please do type in who you are, where you come from, maybe.
Yes,
if
I
you
am
are
going.
a regular,
I've actually turned the volume off.
Are you a regular? Then please do say hi. Then we'll just get cracking in a second. Nicki's going to be on the keyboard as always.
No, keeps me quiet.
She's not playing any tunes. She's on the Facebook keyboard, ready to answer any questions you've got. So a couple more people. Come on, please type in who you are, where you're from. And if you've got any relationship challenge you'd like us to cover, then just type it in and Nicki will get us covering it. But we have chosen the subject tonight of, we thought, like, there's a singles and the couples thing, which is like, what makes attract? How do we attract people into our life? But then very not long, sometimes later, we seem to repel that person, or we seem to be repelling each other. So we thought it was a good subject to cover. Actually, we've been talking a lot about relationships this week, clients, people who we work with, that sort of stuff. So this is what popped up. So maybe if you could type to Nicki, if you're in a relationship, what attracted you to each other? What do you think made it click? What worked? Now, maybe you've been in a relationship where it worked to start with, we attracted brilliantly, and then something went wrong and we started to repel each other, because that's the subject for tonight. So look, please do share, because in your sharings, it makes a massive difference to the others. There's like learnings to be had from each other, and we'll throw in our 2 pence to make sure that, it's got some great value in there. So do please feel free to say who it is and share.
Absolutely.
How did you attract the person? How did you repel them?
And actually, I've just asked this question slightly differently as well, thinking that might be helpful. Because have you ever been really attracted to someone, then repelled by someone? Because sometimes, sadly, it's easier to see when we think it about somebody else. We go, oh, yeah, I was really attracted to that some person. And then I actually felt quite repelled by them, which is easy to look at. Sometimes the most difficult thing is to look at ourselves.
So Nicki V is going to share a little story about attraction, which I've always loved. It's something we put in our single women's course years and years and years ago. So let's go for it. What's happening? Good old Nigel.
Nigel. No, what did I just call him? Nigel. Something weird. And I said, "Hi, Nigel. Are you in a relationship?" Because you never know with Nigel. No. Such a good-looking guy. Looks like. Not Kevin Costner. What's the other bloke?
George Clooney.
George Clooney.
But he also looks like
fabulously masculine.
The bloke
just keeps himself to himself, though. Although, if only women knew you were on the market, Nigel, they'd be absolutely fighting off to get near you. But Nigel goes, of course, always humorous. Just with myself, and we're doing great.
Fantastic.
That's hysterical.
Can you fall out with yourself? Well,
Well, let's not go there.
Anyway, Nicki V, attraction. What actually happened?
A really great
story.
Nigel
has been in a relationship in the past. How did you attract Nigel? Come on, I know. Let's tell us how you attracted and then you did a bit of repelling what happened, and it can't be their fault, of course, you know that. So come on, Nicki B, what is your
so this was such an interesting thing that happened for me. Have you heard that story now where we go, you know, it doesn't happen to me, it happens for me? And I think back all those years, this is in the mid-90s, when I was, I came out of a second marriage, if I'm really, really honest. And actually, that is such a great example. I'll talk about that a bit later, of where we were massively attracted to each other. But then by some of the behaviors we did, which I'll explain later, we actually pushed each other away.
Repelling.
Did a load of repelling, actually. So just come out of that marriage, and I was, you know, single, having a great time, a couple of dates and all that sort of thing. And anyway, what happened was, I was working for a company at the time, had quite a big team, and I found this wonderful woman who actually was teaching about the left and right brain, how the brain works and how we operate, which of course is ironic when I think about how much I teach that now, or talk about that now, when I talk about the DISC profiles. And I always go, you know, like the dominance and compliance is like the left brain, the masculine part, the task part, and then the influence and steadiness is right brain, more of the feminine, more the emotional part of men or women. And so anyway, so she did this fantastic training, and in the evening we all had dinner, and I sat next to her because I was kind of like, well, quite frankly, I was the boss, which is part of the story, actually.
Part of the problem.
Part of the problem. Well, definitely part of the problem and part of the story. I don't mind, you know, admitting that. And if I don't admit it enough, of course, Tony V.
How can we expect me to share my shit?
No, but if I don't mention enough what a ball breaker I was as a boss, and how I was interestingly attracting certain people, Tony will clue you up. I promise you that, because he likes that part. So I sat at the dinner, and there was a guy, like, it was a big round table, like it was, you know, and like there's a guy sat opposite there who was in my team, and he and I are having a bit of banter. He's saying things, I'm saying things back, and this woman, completely innocently, she's a bit like I am now really as a coach, I just ask people questions, you know, and I turned around, she turned around to me and she said, "Oh, are you having a relationship with Colin? Are you in a relationship?" I said, "Oh, no, absolutely not." I said, "Because, you know, actually I'm his boss. He's, you know, one of the team I'm in." She
never
went,
stopped you before.
"Oh, thank you. Thank you. Just thank you. Listen, we'll get some of your dirt out soon later anyway." So she said, "Oh, it's interesting that, you know, that you have this attraction between each other." So I said, "Well, yeah, I suppose we do, really. It seems like a bit of banter, but there is quite a lot of attraction." And of course, I was in the nightclubs trade, so guess what happened?
Was it like the film?
Daily.
It wasn't like the film.
What?
Fatal Attraction.
Fatal Attraction. I don't think I've ever seen that film, because
I
don't like the sound of it with the whole rabbit thing.
No, but it's very like...
Was it a rabbit's head or something?
I don't know. I don't remember that. But anyway, no.
Oh, no, she killed the rabbit. She killed the rabbit.
It was a little bit like Alfred Hitchcock.
I'm sorry, but I'm not a massive animal lover, but I'm not ever watching a film where there's a dead rabbit. No. I'm sorry. That's animal abuse. Right. Anyway, so what happened? She said to me, "Oh, it seems like you've got this going for you." And so I said, "Well, yes, but you know, it's just a laugh. We're in nightclubs, we go out a lot, we go out and we flirt with each other, and that's all it is." She went, "So is Colin and your relationship with Colin anything like your previous relationships?" Oh my God, I think if anything that's caused me to be sitting here today with this amazing man, when he's not dishing up my old dirt, with this amazing man, I think that might have been one of the moments, now I think about it, because I then realized that my relationship, quite a few of them, had been like the one that I had with Colin, even though we weren't in a relationship. And so she then went, like, "Have you had this kind of relationship before?" And I said, "Well, yes, actually, you're absolutely right." And she said, "So look, are you okay? Or would you like me to tell you what I'm seeing?" And honestly, it's really interesting. As a coach, of course, I sometimes ask people that question, and I hear them go, "Yeah," but I remember it thinking, I do not really want to hear what she's going to say. But what she said, again, absolutely changed my life, because she said, "Look, it's a bit like, imagine you've both got one of those things, you know, those like things you wear on your head, and it's got like two big bobbly bits
You
coming
win them
out
at the fun fair or something like that.
Yeah, no, they, you know, girls used to wear them for fun at pubs and things like that. Anyway, they're like bobbly bits that come on the end. Anyway, they're like an antennae, you know. And she said, imagine for a minute. She said, what I'm seeing with your relationship with Colin, which you're saying is has been your relationship with lots of guys, what I'm seeing is you've got an antennae going out without saying any words that's coming. You come into a room and someone like Colin's there and you're going, well, let me tell you the other way around. That's right. Because she said he's coming into a room and his antennae is going, mommy, mommy, where are you? I want you to look after me. And your antennae is going, you, Nicki Brannan, as I was then, you, Nicki Brannan, got an antennae coming out of your head kind of thing, giving out a signal that says, baby, where are you? Mommy's here to look after you. And I was still, as I tell that story, cannot believe how powerful that was for me to realize that was the signal I was giving out. So as Tony said, we talk about this quite a lot when we talk about in our single women's programs. I actually do believe it's the same for men, same for women, same for if you're in a relationship, you are giving out a signal. And we'll talk more as we go in through the evening about the different types of signals. But if what attracts is the signal you're giving out, the way you can tell whether your signal is healthy or not is by what you're attracting. And I was clearly attracting men who were looking to be taken care of, who were quite weak in their approach to life, who were not masculine. And that's not me blaming them. It's me saying that I was putting out a signal that says, don't worry, I'll look after you. Yeah. I mean, Tony, what have you got to say about all that?
All I've got to do is say that. All I've got to do is say.
Notice a name.
I've got to say, was Colin before Simon?
No, I just said
Colin was after Simon.
I just realised that Simon, like, I do hope that nobody who knows me from all that time back isn't listening. It's a bit like when you talk about your family. Yeah. Yes, I was just divorced from Simon.
Okay, so
right? That's why I was saying we were very attracted to each other, and then we repelled each other, and then I learned
that's why it's really good, because, like, you know, the thing is that when your relationship falls apart for whatever reason, what most people do without even thinking about it is they sort of see it. I was a bit like a car, you know, my car's broke down, never going to fix it, you know, put it on that, you know, what do you call that? We Buy Any Car. We put our old car on there the other day, and they said it was worth 2p. You know, anyway.
No, they didn't, but they said it was worth a lot less than I believe it's worth.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a bit like that. You're going, right, I've had my car for a long time. We have loved that car for 11 years. So, and anyway.
It's called Snowy.
Yeah. So, but my point is, it's like getting to the end of its car life. So you're thinking, right, I need to get rid of that one, get a new one. We do that a bit with relationships, because we're going, yeah, look, this one's definitely not working. So, you know, let me get rid of this one and get a new one. Now, if you do that with a relationship, but you don't really realize, obviously a car is not a great example here, but if your relationship breaks down for whatever reason, what you tend not to do is you tend not to look at what you could have potentially been doing that was giving you the experience, which is why I like the antennae example, yeah? Because if your antennae is attracting something that's similar to you, or certainly similar energy, but perhaps different in the way it operates, then obviously when you get rid of that car because it's now doesn't fit, then if you haven't like retuned your antennae, you're now going to go out and, you know, attract the same type of person again. And that is what we see going on over and over and over and over again. So yeah, if you don't learn from what went wrong in your relationship for you, what was your part in the breakdown of that relationship, and then retune your antennae with what you learn, then you're likely to be a serial offender attracting similar things.
Serial offender.
A serial relationship, what would you call it? failure.
Yeah.
And that was definitely true for me, because, you know, at the end of the day, the last thing you think that's going wrong with this relationship is you. And, you know, like a lot of, that's one of the reasons we love coaching, because, you know, look, at the end of the day, coaching is really about having people see what they previously couldn't see. Like this lady, I don't know if you remember her name even, help Nicki see a different perspective by using a bit of a model. So we used lots of those to see what she was doing, and it was very powerful. So it helped her learn what she could do going forward. So if that was her, how she attracted a second relationship, what then, darling? I appreciate your typing madly.
Oh, I can do two things at the same time. I can listen as well. Just listening out in case you're just dishing any more dirt about my past.
No, not at all. Not at all. We were only.
Nigel was just concerned that we might be binning Snowy, getting rid of Snowy. I've just put no. He just wanted to know how much she was worth.
The number plate's worth more than the car.
Yes, the number plate is worth more than the car. I said she's priceless. So, what was your question?
So, the question was, obviously, you had these in 10, you were doing what you shared, which was great, you know. You learned that and you recognised that.
Yeah.
So then, once you learned that, then obviously we do something different. But obviously, when you attracted this other relationship, what is it that when you had that attraction strategy going, okay, because you didn't lose the attraction strategy, how does it then lose attraction and start repelling?
Absolutely. Well,
that's this the $64,000 question.
Of course, at the time when this woman said this to me, I was just floored and completely, and I'm sure that Anne Skelton.
Hello, Anne Skelton. Wow.
Got some, and Jack Duggan is on here tonight.
Good old Jack. I've got a letter to deliver to your gran. It's downstairs. I just saw Duggan written on the envelope.
Yeah, of course. And it's her birthday. Right. So
I hope you haven't forgot that, Jack.
Jack. Remember, it's your grandma's birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. We give this sort of this is extra service, right? No, actually, I think it's a great question. I've said that a few times tonight so far. Have you noticed? I mean, like, you know.
Come on, get on with it. How did it start repelling the very same thing
I
that you
think
did?
that when I learnt that, I was so floored by it. And what I want to say to you is, if only thing you got from tonight is what your signal you're sending out that's attracting you into relationships that aren't sustainable, don't last, and maybe you start to think about how you attracted the wrong kind of relationship by the way you were giving out a signal. If that was all you got from tonight, I think that's a big thing. That's a big bonus.
Just thinking, because I think we should just tell everyone we are relaunching the Tony and Nicki V relationship stuff 1st of July.
Yes.
So keep that date in your diary. Lots happening. And we've been talking about doing some products, some merchandise, some merch, as it's called in the modern world. I reckon we could get some of them antennae. How cool would that be, love? We could get one with,
we were talking about doing a lot of merchandise. You might notice that we have got Tony and Nicki V relationship retreat, Austria dressing gowns. Only 2 left. We had about 40.
Yes.
And they gradually over the years
sold
fell
a few,
apart.
I think we
sold a few, but we gave some away. We hadn't now.
Yeah.
But no,
anyway,
I think
but the antennae would be good.
Is, well, we were talking about having pink and blue caps as well. We like the whole cap thing.
Yes.
Right. But the thing is, if nothing else you get tonight is what signal you were putting out in your last relationship or in your present relationship, then you will have achieved a lot, because most people don't achieve that. So I was completely floored by realizing that and it made so much sense, because I looked back and looked at, even when I'd been just dating somebody, I think I was putting out the same signal. Now, your question is, how did that then start to repel? I think is very much our masculine and feminine teaching, which is to give you our philosophy, just to give you a tiny sort of example of it from me, is say I had got into a relationship with Colin, who, by the way, was typical of the.
Did you like Colin Firth in any way?
No, he wasn't, but he was very good.
He went all the way to Portugal.
He was very good looking. He was like lots of fun to be around. So I always was attracted, just like, they say you're attracted to somebody like your dad, who was, funny, quite a good looking guy, kind of, anyway, which is like you. funny, good looking. Yeah. But what I know would have happened, and what I had happened, more importantly, in my previous relationships, was I obviously lived through the repelling bit, which was like Simon, my husband, is that because that signal was so a woman doing a masculine signal, which is I'll look after you. But let me just keep it that simple. And his signal was I want looking after, right? That played itself out in decisions, money, property, you name it. It was just, it ran that, right? Now, gradually, I think that if I think about it, I carried on doing that for a long, long time, even though I sort of knew I was doing it. Remember my story about when I first got with Simon? I knew I was doing it because he was very emotional. He was very like, I can't deal with this. He couldn't get himself somewhere to live. So I got him somewhere to live. So just as, you know, to give you an example, and I think that gradually that absolutely chips away gradually with every decision the woman makes, with everything she pays for, with everything that happens, as that it chips away at the attraction. And I think what happened with me, and what happened with loads of other relationships as well, is I kept doing that. The attraction was lost from my end because men don't like that. They're attracted to it, but they don't like it. It's a bit like when we've had guys come to us, and the single men have come to us, or our, you know, relationship events or whatever, and they've gone, oh, I like a really strong woman. I like a woman who's capable, and she you know, she's doing well in business, and she's very intelligent and all that sort of thing. Well, great. And you might be attracted to that, but it's not a healthy attraction, because eventually with most men, you could talk about this much more than me, most men will go, eventually they don't want that. They actually want someone who looks up to them because they're the strong, more masculine role in the relationship. And there was just one more thing I thought about, which was really interesting looking back, is that the theory thing that was really attracted each of us to it was the kind of the usual, like what you look like, how you dress, what you like, you know, what you like doing for fun and all those sorts of things. But very, very quickly, and I actually moved in to this property that I found for him very quickly because he didn't want to be on his own. And I think that's a massive giveaway. And I think like, like your story, think about your story of when you left Paulette and you got into a relationship really quickly, which I know, you know, we always have a laugh about. But think about it. You always say that's because you didn't want to be on your own. So how did you attract that next relationship?
Yeah,
it's a good example.
You know, it is, yeah. And you go, well, look, and it's not for the best reason, of course. You know, the problem is that you're in a very low state, and I see a lot of men get into this state. You know, I've been helping some guys this week, you know, and I go, yeah, you know, when things aren't going well in your relationship, what happens to your energy? Does your energy go up? Does it stay the same, or does it go down? Well, you know, I can absolutely tell you when your relationship's not going great. I've never seen anybody get excited about that and their energy go up. Maybe if they're leaving, you know, they're going, okay, that's fantastic. That's, thank God that's over. But that's not in the process when it's going downhill. Your energy is going downhill. And so many people, so many men become dysfunctional at that time because actually your head fills up. Your head fills up. We do a lot of the how question comes out of men's head in so many ways. It's like logically the left hand side of the brain starts to think how. Men are very fix-it mode, and when they go into emergency mode, their energy goes down and they start to not be in a good state. They start howling even quicker. How do I fix that? How do I fix this? This has happened. How do I stop that happen? So it's a sort of a form of controlling something that they can't control, you know. And look, there's this love saying that I don't know who's saying it is, you've used it a lot, which is herding people is like herding cats.
No, managing people. Well, I would say in the relationship thing, yeah. It's like understanding, managing, being around people, thinking you can control that is like herding cats. You think about how you couldn't herd cats.
I agree.
It's a book.
So the thing, is it?
Yeah.
Right, cool. So yeah, my thing is that, you know, one of the things that when things aren't going well in a relationship, you'll always notice that one or other or both of you most likely is trying to control the other one, trying to get them to do something other than what they're doing because you don't like what they're doing. Now, this really doesn't work. So when I notice men, you know, they've attracted the woman, and then what they start doing is they're either being controlling or they're being controlled, or both people are controlling, in which case that wasn't present at the beginning. So what attracted you then starts to repel you. And normally the things that are repelling are the little things you didn't find out in the first place. So I remember doing this talk, how a way to prevent this, of course. I remember doing this talk once. I think it was with Dan, actually. Dan, or was it the guy that's in, I can't think of his name now. Was Dan's mentor at some point? What was his name? Tell me
the story.
Leamington. Anyway,
we went. Yeah, go on. Peter Thompson.
Peter Thompson. Yeah. So anyway, I remember being at this event, and Peter Thompson was definitely there. And anyway, one of the speakers at the event was one of the dragons. I think his name was Khan. He was one of the first.
Khan.
Yeah, he was one of the first dragons. Yeah, and I remember standing at the back and chatting to him, and he was just about to go on stage, and when he went on the stage, he shared something about business, which I just thought, oh my goodness me, we could so use that. In fact, yesterday I was only just sharing how business, like sales or relationships in business, are very like intimate relationships, because ultimately when you make a sale, that you're creating, two individuals create something together. Definitely business partners are looking like that. So what James Caan said when he went on the stage is, he asked a question actually. He said, so how many people here hire somebody? There was about 100 people in the audience. How many people would hire somebody as a member of staff and only interview them once? And literally, I reckon like 80% of the room put their hand up. Yeah? So then he said, how many people would interview them like twice? And then about, 10% of the room, it was, most of the people by now put their hand up. How many people interview them 3 times? And there was like 1 person. How many people interview more than 3 times? No one. No one at all, yeah? So he asked the question, how many times do you think I interview them before I, take them on, if it's going to be, like a real partnership? It's a really important role where we're going to share time with each other. He said, because it's a little bit like you're getting into a very personal, not quite like intimate, but like an intimate relationship.
Very similar.
And he said, I interview them over 20 times. So it was interesting because my sort of mouth dropped at the time. And I thought, well, how many people get into an intimate relationship, but they start sleeping with the person? In other words, they get intimate with them before they've had like 20 dates. So we actually started to use this. Somebody actually once said, well, you said, which we never did, I don't think, that you should be dating someone for at least 6 weeks. I think that was right. At least 6 weeks before you're intimate with them. But anyway, we did say, well, we never said that actually, but actually it's a good idea, because I think what happens in relationships when you're 2 of 10 have attracted each other, yeah, but what you've done is that you've seen all the good bits, but what's so interesting is the universe of attraction doesn't know the difference between good and bad. It's just attraction. What we notice is the bits we want to notice, and we don't notice, or we delete the bits we don't like, or we don't know each other enough. So we've got some sort of mask on. So we've got this pretense on. You're pretending to be somebody that you're not really. That once you get intimate, and you start to, be okay around this person, and you start to run your more not so good patterns, then the other person doesn't like those not so good patterns. And then you'll find out, well, hold on a minute, they've got some similar patterns that you don't like. Could be anything from, we always making a laugh about the knives in the dishwasher being the wrong way around.
Not the pants on the floor.
The pants on the floor last week. I mean, you could be the toothpaste. The toothpaste is a big one. Whether you roll it up or how
that whole thing. We have a different thing now.
We have different
so we don't
things.
Argue about.
No, we've got our own toothpaste at the moment. But anyway, we share a toothbrush, but we have different toothpastes. That's interesting. Yeah? But anyway, so yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? But yeah,
we shared a toothbrush. It's very weird, isn't it? I think we're quite a strange couple. But that was
it's an intimate thing to do that we've done from day one, really, or when we got together, you know. So yeah, we've never stopped doing that, have we?
No. But actually, it's a really interesting thing that you say. Is that I think that what I hadn't really thought about this until we put this on, which is about what creates attraction, and often that's going to be physical attraction, and then what repels, and it isn't the physical attraction that repel. It's not like you find somebody attractive, you're attracted to them physically, and then all of a sudden you're not. It's because of everything else that goes on in the relationship.
Absolutely.
It's like
if it is energetic. So look, there's a whole load of science nowadays, not mainstream science, but certainly what do they call the looking over the edge science, I forgot what you call it now, metaphysical science, yeah? The metaphysical science has absolutely proven that everything is energy, yeah? So this is what we're talking about with your antennae. Your antennae is a representation of your overall energy, and your energy is a representation of several things, really: your physical state, your emotional state, your mental state, spiritual state, all of those different planes of existence, as I sometimes call them. These make up your energy field, and your energy field attracts somebody else's energy field that has got a similar look and feel to it. Now, that will mean that underlying this attraction is an energetic attraction. And that's why I think it's really good that we use the antennae example here, where, if you keep consistently either attracting or not attracting. Look, if you're not attracting, it's because the signal you're putting out isn't got the attractors on, should we call it, yeah? And you might have repellers on right now. In other words, your antennae are repelling. So why would that be? What signals would your antennae be giving off that are repelling people away from you? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are what you could call serial singles. In other words, they stay single for very long periods of time, and they're not really sure why. They're not sure why.
But I think they think it's because a lot of women would think, oh, I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not feminine enough, or whatever. When in actual fact, I think the interesting thing, I was just thinking while you were talking, I was going like, when we are attracted to someone because of their physical look, we completely don't we don't understand them as a person. And I believe that a lot of women go into this kind of like, I'll look after you thing, because actually because they feel vulnerable as a woman, that they do actually get themselves quite secure. And then that is kind of quite attractive to a man who's not that secure in his self or his finances. Yes. But you think about it, and that wasn't you, for example. It wasn't you that was, you're not insecure financially, but you wanted to be in a home.
No, but emotionally.
Not in a home. I mean, you wanted to have.
An old people.
Yeah. No, but you wanted to be emotionally, part of a home.
I can definitely see how my energy has gone down. So I was emotionally, not stable, which isn't great. And then maybe mentally not great. In other words, you're having thought patterns going on which are very negative. Yeah, they're negative, and they could be anything from I'm not good enough, not lovable, not attractive. And honestly, there's a stream of consciousness that goes on in our unconscious that actually you are giving out those signals. If somebody's got the signal that I'll look after you, then boom, now you've got an attraction. But that attraction is not healthy attraction. Yeah? So it's how do we get healthy attraction? But I was just interested in thinking about the people that are what I call serial singles or long-term singles.
Yes.
What do you think that they're giving out that is repelling them, or what are they doing?
Well, we were just saying, weren't we? One of the things that we did all those years ago when we were making all those YouTube videos everywhere in our little studio in Austria, the most famous, the most well-viewed videos, not famous, the most well-viewed videos were two different videos. One was called How to Spot a Plonker, and the other one was called How to Spot a Bit of a Nightmare, meaning, girls, here's how you spot a plonker. And then we were literally having girls writing and going, oh, I think I'm with a plonker. So we were slightly, maybe that would be useful to just define what we mean by a plonker. And then the women were writing in saying, I think I'm with a plonker, and I think I've been with lots of plonkers. And then men were writing in going, I think I'm being a plonker. So I think we'll need to because that is something that happens after the initial mask attraction.
Yes.
Now with the women, we made videos going, how to spot a bit of a nightmare. And I think your answer, which made me think about it, your answer to question, what about long-term single people, is that normally what they're doing is they got so entrenched in their own lives, living alone or living, like with family or whatever that is, but mostly living alone, that I was talking to somebody this very week who went, it's a very common thing to say, but this happened this week. It was somebody said, I don't really know whether I even want to be in a relationship, because their view of a relationship was I'd have to live differently than I do now. And therefore, I want to live I want a relationship, but I want to live like I do now. And I think that what they don't realize, a lot of single people, is they've got so entrenched, is the best word I can think of,
I think
in their own way, that's not attractive to people. Because it's kind of like, this is the way I do things. And I do things
so what do you call rigid, inflexible, rulesy, that sort of stuff. So we're looking for
the plonker thing.
Let me just use this example why it comes to mind. We just literally watch, because we're always watching. We don't watch that much television. We do our best to watch good quality stuff, but actually,
not it.
This is not it. We were watching Place in the Sun. Yeah. Now, there's a couple come on and they've got their budget. And if you've never watched Place in the Sun, these people over there, they're like estate agents, take them around 4 or 5 properties. Yeah. But this couple said at the beginning that they'd already looked at between 30 and 40 properties. Now, then what you noticed as they went round is that they were like, if you ever read the model where it says cup half full or cup half empty, yeah. Now,
what are you focusing on? You're focusing on what's wrong or what's right?
Yes, and most people
that's the same as
thinking about what's wrong or what's right. So these people just focused straight away, immediately looked at what wasn't right. Now, and
it was different every time, wasn't it?
Yes,
it was like
they found something. They found something, not just. They found it immediately. It's like their antennae was looking for what's not right, as opposed to looking for what is right. Yeah, and I thought that was amazing. So we actually can't watch for the relationship thing, because there was this guy, and he wants balcony of a certain a terrace of a certain. He wants it 10 meters minimum, but preferably 12 meters.
So he gets a tape measure out,
and he measured
it, and he's gone, you hold that end. Well, we're like Chris Rock. Tell me if you've been in a relationship. Tell me if you've never been in a relationship, you've never thought about where you'd put the body, where you hide the body if you murdered them. And I was like, I would literally want to murder that person, which is why I'd never be attracted to someone
and then he's
who
literally
had a lot of rules.
He's gone, rules. It's a ruler. He's measuring it. Anyway, he's measured it and he's gone, yes, it is slightly under 10 meters. Or whatever it was, Anyway, like you're going, right, okay, these two.
But you could almost see from her face, she wasn't as if you've got somebody who's anally retentive, which is what I call it, which is unfair really, but anyway, I do, with someone who's anally retentive, who's going, yes, let's measure this. You could almost see this woman kind of going, not the fucking tape measure, which is, it was like, it was just, not that you don't measure things.
I do.
You measure things when we do an event.
I love it.
God.
I've got an electronic one. I haven't got one of those fully out.
No, but it's such a good example. It's almost like that could repel. So it could be that this person is absolutely. Well, the other thing was, let's not go there with the whole money. That actually got this money. They got this money to buy the best thing they could buy for this exact amount of money, but they wouldn't pay it. They wouldn't
They wanted
pay
to
that
spend
amount of
less
money.
than that, yeah.
They wanted to spend less, so they had a little bit left over and all that sort of thing. Now, you might go, yes, Nicki V, we've heard about your beliefs about money. You know, money is for spending.
Money's in your antennae.
Yes, but it is.
Absolutely in your antennae.
Like, therefore, what's interesting is you're going to be attracted, if you're in a healthy space, to someone who's got the same kind of vibe as you have about everything. So, for example, Tony and I met the first time we spent much time together. We were like going out, doing things, eating out, we were like quite extravagant, if I think. Now we are still quite extravagant, really, aren't we? Now, I'm not saying that's the right way. I'm just saying that it works when you're both that way. Whereas if you're really careful with money, then you really need to be with somebody who's careful with money.
If you go back to the cup half full, half empty, it's very tough for somebody with a cup, with a model of life whose cup's full, to be with someone whose cup's half empty. So I think that, and actually, what's true is there are more cup empties than cup fulls. Definitely, there's a lot more in the UK, people whose cup's half empty than half full. But look, you probably have a better life if you swapped your model, because the lack energy is never good. I mean, it's never good. It's like, well, abundance energy will be its opposite. So I'd encourage a separate thing. Anyway, I just noticed, interestingly, that Think and Grow Rich has been launched as a movie. And if you haven't seen that, or haven't read the book, not that I've ever read the book, I hear a lot about the book and I know some of the stories from Napoleon Hill. But yeah, Grant Cardone and Bob Proctor and a few others, Lewis, what's his name? Lewis Howes. There's a whole bunch of speakers in there that have done a sort of secret, should we call it, which Bob Proctor was famous for doing as well. They've done a secret on Think and Grow Rich, which actually looks really, really good. So you'll probably see it popping up on your Facebook feed as an advert. I mean, they're trying to flog the film, but it's probably worth it because it was absolutely made when you think of the number of people whose cup is half empty versus how many's half full. And Think and Grow Rich is absolutely about believing that your cup is full, not half full.
Yeah, but I do think we want to make the point.
It's a separate point.
That it's like, what will attract you is somebody who has similar needs. And so it would be like, if we go and buy a house together and I'm looking for one kind of thing and Tony's looking for the other, but I think that the attraction is normally a physical thing. It's normally this is the way you live your life, which is a good thing. But what repels is when the old stuff, the old things that the Charlie's just on, and she said, you both leave your bag of shit at the door at the beginning of the relationship. You once told me.
Yeah,
that's
remember. Very true.
And then I said, and then you pick it up again.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very, very true. Yeah, so we do have a mask, we have a pretense that we haven't got any shit, and then we literally take it into our relationship. So look, the truth is, if you are single right now, then obviously working on getting rid of your shit is very, very powerful. And if you're in a relationship that's not working, then actually, honestly, whilst it's like, a scary thing, I mean, people tend to come to us when they're in trouble, but mostly they come when they're too in trouble. It would be much better, and that's why we used to love doing relationship retreats, because lots of people come to the relationship retreat when they weren't, I don't know, we had some people come that were on the edge of leaving and stuff like that. But
lots of times.
But people came because we sort of sold a relationship experience where you could grow your relationship rather than save your relationship. When we're doing relationship coaching, I can't tell you how many people come and we're on the edge, or we're falling over the edge and now we're trying to get back on the edge, or we're trying to pull them away from the edge. And that's much more difficult. So if you're in a relationship where, let's go, we always ask scores on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 is it's the most amazing relationship, and 0 is actually ready to jump off a cliff and finish it type thing. Where are you? So look, the point at which you should be getting some help is when you're 7 or less. If you're an 8, 9, or 10, you're doing great. But even a 7, I'd ask for help. If you leave it till you're a 1 or a 2, I've heard one person say they were a 1.5 this week. I've had somebody lower than that. I've had somebody at a 5. I've had somebody at 7. I'm going, look, you can see how if your relationship's at a 7 working on your relationship with your partner to move it up the scale makes so much more sense than waiting until we're ready to kill each other and then going, right, now what we're going to do. Because it's like so much more difficult to unpick. So I literally encourage you, and that's why when we launch on the 1st of July, we're going to be doing quite a lot of stuff about just growing your relationship, filling your cup back up again. So it's like overflowing. Your relationship's overflowing with love, joy, happiness, all of that sort of stuff that we all want from a relationship. It's why we're in a relationship. It's because we want that. So look, we need to, if we're in a relationship, you know, maybe retune our antennae, because if there's a gap grown and you're not an 8, 9 or a 10, then actually that means that something's getting on your nerves. They're doing something that you don't like, that almost definitely you're trying to control them, you're trying to stop them doing it, and you're doing something they don't like and you're trying to get them to stop doing it. And that gap, and so like there is a point. So we always ask the other question, which is a bit of a stronger question, which is, so okay, we've asked you about your relationship scores, let's ask you about your intimacy scores. Now, nearly always people will give us a higher relationship score than they'll give their intimacy score. So when things are going a bit downhill, the first thing that tends to happen when the gap starts to grow and we start repelling is that intimacy starts to have a bigger gap between it. You know, instead of like every night, we're now down to, you know, we go to like once a month or even never. You know, I mean, like once you've got no intimacy in a relationship, intimacy is an absolute very important thing. I don't know how else to say it, really. It's a very, very important. So how intimate are you with each other? But intimacy is a phenomenal part that glues your relationship together. And, you know, unfortunately, of course, it's not taught. We're not taught how to be intimate. So we absolutely tend to not be very good at it, I'm afraid, you know, because nobody taught us how to do it. So I often say we're literally fumbling around in the dark. And of course, if you get it wrong, then it's not pleasant for the other person, you know. So yeah, anyway, learning about intimacy, we used to do a whole week-long event about intimacy. It was one of the most joyous things to do for people to discover it. But the lack of knowledge or understanding on it, I mean, honestly, I can't understand why we do not teach this stuff to, you know, our children, and we literally expect ourselves, you know, with a bit of sex education to get intimacy right. But I promise you, it's the thing that will glue your relationship back together. But the time you've, you know, got so far apart, then actually you end up just sharing a house, which is very brother and sistery, or, you know, just best friends, or, you know, you have your life, they have their life, and we're living in this house together, but we've forgotten what brought us together because the antennae have now started doing the repelling things, and all the little things that they do that annoy you and you do that annoy them then get in the way. So I think it's like we need to retune our antennae, really.
Absolutely. And as you've just been talking, just been thinking, what's so interesting about what repels is it can be anything, can't it? It can be money, it can be interactions, anything that happens. And then what your relationship becomes based on is either, as Tony was just saying, the things that annoy you about each other, you start to argue about certain things, or your relationship becomes based on practicalities, you know, staying with each other because it's practical financially, well, the children or whatever. Lots of reasons why people stay together. And when that relationship is happening and the scores are really, really low, what tends to happen is that this relationship has no attraction in it. It has no polarity in it. It has no fun in it. I'll have no love in it. We'll have no intimacy in it, which is really interesting when you think that that's the very thing at the beginning. You know, you think about it. When you first meet someone, I was writing about this today when we were writing about what goes wrong, is that when you first meet someone, you think they're lovely, they're perfect, they're attractive, you like all the things that they do. And then all of a sudden, and you have to obviously look at yourself and go, well, like, what am I doing that's repelling, that's my old stuff, like Charlie was saying, you know, you put your stuff down and then you pick it back up again. What am I doing that's repelling? But also, what is our relationship now based on? Because to take it back to a higher score of attraction, polarity, really having this lovely intimacy that is like you two are the most connected than you are with anyone. You know, think of the relationships that with the people that we talk to. Sometimes they're closer to their sisters or brothers or best friends or work colleagues. This is why some people.
That's why they're having different relationships outside of their intimate relationships that fulfill them more than their intimate relationship. I remember Tony Robbins doing a thing once which sort of blew me away. It was very early days, maybe the first or second event I'd ever been to with him. And he asked somebody in the audience, you know, so what do you do to show that person that you love them? Anyway, she got going on a list. You know, she's going, what I do is washing, I cook for him every day, you know, I do this. And he sort of gone, no, let me stop you. It's a very bad interpretation of what he did. But anyway, he basically said, no, I didn't ask what you do for him. I asked you how you show him you love him. Yeah. And I thought, wow, that was like a big eye-opener for me, because I think what we do is we think that the doing things are love, but they're not, are they? That's not love at all, you know. It's like how to be loving, and that's where the intimacy thing comes in. So, you know, like once you lose that intimacy, then, you know, we are on a bit of a slippery slope, and that slippery slope can, you know, I often use the example. We watched the Grand Prix last week. There were people crashing, they were sliding off. I call it spinning off. So some relationships, you get to a point where one or both of you spin off, and now you're out of the race, you know. Whereas others, we just go slowly around the track, and, you know, it's a long way around that track, and there's a lot of laps, you know, and then we die. So, you know, I've definitely seen relationships that have got what I call longevity, but they've got no quality. So what we want is both. We want quality that gives us longevity. If you've got quality, then actually time, I don't know if you know, when you first get into a relationship, sometimes you've had those conversations where you suddenly talked for hours, but it seems like it was no time at all. That is when you're in the zone, you know, that is known as the zone. And that is a very intimate connection that we've got at that time. But relationships lose that. I remember Chris Rock saying at one point, you know, Chris Rock is not exactly a relationship you know, coach or
no, definitely not.
He's done
about them a lot,
he's looked at all the intricacies. He swears a lot because he's from Harlem in New York, you know, but he does make some very, very good points. And there was one point where he tells this joke about this man coming home, and she starts telling him the same story that she tells him every night. And what does he say to her? He said, can you please
go get mugged or something?
Go and
have an accident. I don't know.
Just something so that you tell me a different story than the same old story over and over and over again. Anyway, it's very funny how he does it.
But that's interesting, isn't it? Because I was just thinking about it, because Nigel's just being usual Nigel, and just trying to press my buttons, which is fine. You can't get me, Nigel, only a bit, right? And what I think is so, you know, great is that when we ever, you know, when we share with couples, we go, look, there's first of all understanding each other and understanding why you might be behaving in a way that is irritating to the other person, but also once you understand, then have some compassion for the fact that they might be, you know, like going through something or whatever, but also let it go, you know, because if you don't let it go, what happens is it kind of gnaws away at you, and you get more and more whatever you get, angry, resentful, whatever you do, and all of a sudden that relationship really goes downhill. But what you were just saying is what made me think about this is the reverse of that, of course, is if you let it go, but to have fun about it. I mean, don't we have fun about the things that could go into like an argument. For example, when we go away, the last twice we went away, we went to Madeira, right, which we love that place. But I actually went there when I was 19. So we made a whole joke about it because everybody we got chatting to kept asking, is this your first time? And of course, I would like be, at first, I'd just go, you know, because I'm just like a chatty person. I just go, well, actually, I came here the first time when I was 19 because I used to work on the cruise liners. And then the next person, and I'd say the next thing until in the end,
Okay.
Tony was going, if I hear you say one more time, I say, so of course, then, so we'd be having a laugh, we'd be out one evening or something. And I just turn to Tony and I go, yeah, of course. Did I ever tell you that I was here? Well, we just didn't. We've got lots of things like that.
Well, sometimes I break in and I go, look, before you ask her that question, I know the answer. I could tell you the answer better than she could tell you the answer.
Dear.
Yeah,
But
I can tell you about the launch.
Yes.
Because it couldn't park in the harbour, it had to park out there in the sea, and then,
Oh yeah.
you know, I know the whole story. But look, there are times when I apparently, I don't remember, of course, I've driven around my old neck of the woods, as we used to call it, and share and
told me about your father's business.
Yeah, you told me that before. I've been here before. Oh, well, I don't remember that. But anyway, there you go.
But,
anyway, it's good fun.
We laugh about it. We go like, we don't go, if I hear that person tell me that story once more, we just make a joke about it, and that's all we think. Now,
look, I think laughter's the key. Any questions? Anything?
Well,
come on,
kind of. Yeah, Matthew's saying that he thinks, we've obviously asked, you know, what do we think? What do you think? He said communication problems. I said, what type of communication problem? He's gone between couples. He said, I'm learning to talk better with my partner over the years. So I think Matthew, well, I don't know, you, obviously, because Matthew's a man, it might be better coming from you. I think that what we've just said is a very important thing, to be willing to let go of things that maybe you're not the same in every way. You know, there's differences, gender, upbringing, all those things. Yeah, I mean.
But I think if you're going to dig your heels in on anything, if you're going to dig your heels in, what you're going to be doing is making the other person wrong. You know? Now, I've asked thousands of people to put their hands up in our audiences and go, who here likes being wrong? So how many people do you reckon have ever put their hand up? But you see, when we're in a communication negativity, what we are unconsciously mostly doing is we are making ourselves right and we're making them wrong. The other person wrong. Inadvertently, because we don't realise when we're making ourselves right that we're making them wrong. And of course, they don't want to be wrong. So if you get into that's one of the most common conflicts. So the trick is to not look. You know, I've been saying it a lot about all sorts of things. You know, one of the biggest challenges with humans is the one word. It's like the lowest thing that you can do, really. And look, do we still do it? Yes. Are we aware we do it? Yes. Can we turn it around? Yes. If you're unaware you're doing it, you can't do anything about it. But that is judgment. Judgment of other humans. So, for example, I'm going to make a very bold statement now. I've got only 2 minutes.
But one more question.
Is that I'm going to make a bold statement, so hold on to your pants here. I'm going to say there is no such thing as racism. Okay.
Oh,
and
God.
the reason
and then
it's very contentious. You see, because the problem is not racism. That's like at the surface. What's going on underneath is judgment. Yeah.
Yes.
That is what all humans need to learn to overcome.
Yes.
So all the time we're up here arguing whether you should do that or we're making laws about you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
We're missing the massive point that all we're all doing is judging each other, and no one likes to be judged. And the reason we don't like when we're being judged, we are doing everything we can to not be wrong. And honestly, this would change the whole planet if we just understood that. And so in relationships, unfortunately, what you're doing even if we're communicating not very well, when we're making the other person wrong, we are judging them. And that is our ego self. It's not even us. This is it's an innate part of us that's grown up inside of us. It's I call it your representative. So if you could put that part of you to bed, what is left is the most amazing soul that would connect with anybody at any time from a place of love, compassion, understanding, all of those sorts of very high level energy. So that's a good place to finish. We're like 40. Oh,
Kate McNeil saying how profound about judgment. And I do think, sometimes you look at other people's relationships. We all do it. We look at our family or our friends' relationships. If you judge someone in the relationship, if you ever see a relationship and you go, well, that person's good, that person behaves properly, and that person behaves well, and that person behaves bad, I guarantee you that that comes from your own behavior, comes from your own background. So you will see your type of behavior as good, and you'll see the other person's behavior as bad. And as Tony said very profoundly, that is all judgment. Just one last question from Charlie, which is, what about when the female becomes masculine? We've talked about that a little bit. She says, what's the male version of this?
Well, the male version of, or the opposite, what sort of tends to happen, this is like, I've run out of time now to share this, so you're going to get the 30-second version, is that, you know, look, this is like another big subject. So like we're talking about, you know, the whole racism thing, actually not being racism, but being judgment. You know, the truth is that in Victorian times, men had a macho way of being, and that women were always considered second class. We've still got that going on. I mean, it's changed around the world a lot, but we've still got it in quite a lot of countries, you know. I mean, Saudi Arabia would be a classic example where still the men are acting like what our Victorian men would have acted like, you know, back in the 1800s. Now, on the journey of time, of course, we've had everything from, you know, Emily Pankhurst and the women getting the vote, and then right through to, you know, the swinging 60s with, you know, the Ford factory, the ladies in the Ford factory going on strike for equal pay, right through to feminism. Now, I think that the feminist movement made a fundamental mistake, because what they did, if you think about it, and this is still going on today, it's a bit like the racism thing, is that what they did is they picked a fight with men, and they've confused the hell out of men. So, of course, they've judged men as being a problem. And look, I'm not saying men didn't deserve it, because, you know, if you're going to be macho and aggressive, you have to expect a bit of a backlash. The challenge is the backlash has come from the more masculine side of the female. So if you think about it, feminism is not feminine. That is the big problem in my world. Yeah. So a true feminine behavior is much stronger, more powerful, in my view, than feminist behavior, which would be women that have acted in a more masculine sense. So what happens when women act in a more feminist or masculine way is that men get completely confused. And I promise you, men are confused right now en masse with how to deal with women. So what they do, a high percentage, I can't give you an exact number because there are no studies, and a lot of people wouldn't agree with what I'm saying, but a high percentage of men that we see have become more feminine. Yeah. So as soon as you have a more feminine man with a more masculine woman, then this sort of gap grows, and that's where I see the problem.
But can I just add something to that? Because I'm sorry, I was typing, so I didn't hear everything you said. But let's just be absolutely clear. What we're not saying here is men go into a feminine state because women are masculine.
No.
Men will live in a feminine state. So the reverse, Charlie, is that a man will be in a weakened state. He won't be in that strong, centered.
He's got no certainty. And what men have done is they've given up their power, going, well, I thought women wanted this, so let me do that. But actually, that's not what women really want. So there's been a lot of confusion. Well, I think Matthew said it. There's a lot of miscommunication here, because there's a lot of unspoken energy. So it's like, this is an energetic thing. It's not a logical head thing. So we may be, you know, describing it in a logical head sense, you know, because you go, well, how, you know, if you're asking how questions, you're in your head. What we're talking about is the antennae. So if women put on a more masculine, energetic antennae, unfortunately, its opposite is a more feminine man. And
but
so
it
they
can
attract.
start the other way around, because we
course
see lots and lots of, funny enough, interestingly, when we advertise, not that we do, it's going to start again, but when we were advertising a lot for people to have relationship help with us, we got a lot of single women who were wanting to know how to be in a great relationship. So we did a lot of work on this. you know, how to be feminine, how to be in a good space so that you can be feminine, because of course we haven't mentioned that tonight, but obviously it starts off with being in a good enough space to be in your natural core energy. And then we had a lot of couples come towards us, women or men in a relationship, but we had very few single men come towards us. And we still see that now, is that what will happen is that a man will start to live. I mean, they might still be living at home with his parents, or he's got a job and he's literally got a place where he lives, and he's got a very small world. And that, of course, will not attract a woman in any way, whether she's masculine or feminine in her core energy. Is like, it certainly won't attract a feminine woman, because she's looking for a man who's certain and he's got some purpose in life. And it won't even attract a woman who's doing in a masculine, because unless she's very like, let me take care of anybody. So that can happen as well. So I think, you know, just wanted to be really clear about that, because it starts in the one person, not as a reaction.
Yeah, indeed. So look, we've run 5 minutes over. We'll do our best not to do that. But
a lot of the questions came at the end.
Great question.
Which was great.
So I hope we've answered it. You did get the quick version of that. Well, actually,
Charlie said, love this, and I love being more feminine, because we talked a lot about that, didn't we, Charlie? Beautiful.
All right, darlings. Well, we're going to have to go because we've run over now. So, yeah, we'll be back with Tony and Nicki 7 o'clock next week. Number 12, #12. So if you do want to go back and look at any of the old ones, they're all on the YouTube channel. If you are watching on Facebook, all of these videos are stored in the 10-10 movement on YouTube, along with loads of other stuff. I mean, I'm making the last one this week. It's 10 videos about saving planet Earth and what we do, because planet Earth is on I would say we're like a car driving towards a brick wall here, and we need to veer off. So I've made 10 videos about what we could do as individuals and collectively to maybe prevent that. And there's loads of other videos in there. I think we're getting close to 100 videos in there, which are all sort of this sort of learning, and lots of relationships ones in there as well. So do go and check it out. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in this week. It's been really appreciated. Thanks for your messages, and we'll see you next week.
One of my favourite things, Matthew, saying, I'm gripping onto my pants right now with a picture of a pair of men's trousers. And then he says, do you think that one person usually dominates the relationship? This is a good thing. Matthew, I'm just going to type you an answer.
Yeah, perfect. All right, we'll see you next week. Bye for now.